Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football. It's our one-on-one interview today, actually, because we only have Adarsh joining us, but he's back after a very long time. So, Adarsh, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Rohit. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me back on the show.
Yeah, and it's good to see you because the last time I think a couple of times you've actually been like without videos. It's good that we can actually see you.
Yeah, there was some problem with the camera itself. So yeah, now it's all sorted.
नहीं it's okay. पहले there's a saying and मुंह दिखाने लायक नहीं रहा in Hindi.
नहीं वो Champions League final में था. Now it's getting better with time.
Yes. All right. Anyway, a little bit of Hindi there, but then we'll get right into it. It's actually a very, very big weekend. But a lot of the talk is actually off field that's happening. I mean, it's interesting. Let's go right there. Let's start with that. Let's start with United against Chelsea. That's the big game this weekend. Adarsh, what do you make of Ben Chilwell will be out and N'Golo Kante will be out? It's a bizarre game in some ways for Chelsea because they're coming into this one. They're probably the favorites. They should win this one. But all the talk right now is probably what United want to do beyond the game. What would Chelsea's mindset be going into this game? I guess because they're going to come up against a team that, will they be sort of thinking that United are going to be motivated because there's a new manager? Do they just focus on what they're doing? What should their mindset be in this game?
For Chelsea, I don't think Thomas would change any kind of approach, because if you see the game one of Chelsea, he's using the same approach since game one. He's being normal, he's keeping his nerves, the players are keeping his nerves, and they are performing, which is resulting in good outcome for the whole team itself. So I don't think Thomas is going to change any kind of tactics for Man United itself, because United themselves aren't any much of a serious threat right now, to be honest. And
just go right. You just go right. No, just go right.
No, I mean sometimes they are a threat to.
It's okay. I understand
teams, but but when it comes to United, I would say they have a hunger, as you said, like they have a good hunger to prove Carrick what they can do or what they're capable of doing under a different manager. But again, Pogba is injured. Maguire is a little off form.
He's suspended. He's not playing.
Yeah, even Maguire is suspended. So Lindelof, Varane are the two centre-back pairing. De Gea is just having a very good time this season. Ronaldo, again, he is clinical as always. But the thing is, the additional part is Sancho, who played really, really well in the last Champions League game. And he seems like he's getting a bit more into the game with United. He's getting more involved into the game. So that could be a game changer for United if he gets a little more opportunity.
What would United's mindset be? Because, I mean, they're obviously playing, this is probably, if reports are to believe, this is going to be Carrick's last game in charge. They're going to have a new manager coming in from Monday. So do they go, I need to impress the manager, I need to make sure that, I keep my place? Or do they go, what, this game doesn't really matter as much, because even if we lose it, we've got a new manager, we can kind of, work our way back in the team. Like, it's going to be a clean slate for him. What do you think the mindset for United would be?
I don't think any player would think of let this game just slide past and then I'll go on and impress the manager. Because with every game, every match, there is a reputation a player holds, right, of himself. So I don't think they're going to harm that reputation of himself if they perform very, very bad or they do some kind of a blunder. So I don't think they'll do it. But of course, Carrick is a United legend and they are well aware of it. So they'll be playing for the badge if they want to play at first place. So yeah, I think it could be a 50-50 or it could be one-sided with a Chelsea win.
Yeah, I think that will be key, isn't it? Because Chelsea are missing N'Golo Kante, so that'll be interesting to see who they put in the midfield. I think left back will probably be Marcos Alonso who will start unless he pulls a surprise. But
Alonso started the season with Chelsea as a first choice, but later on Thomas decided to put in Chilwell, and he surprisingly started doing a better job than Marcos Alonso.
Well, he was obvious. I think he's better than Alonso anyway. I think defensively anybody's better than Marcos Alonso. I think the goal scoring, I think, was something that took everyone by surprise. But Marcos Alonso always seems to score against United. So, they want.
But guess what? Chilwell is scoring for fun as well. So
So it'll be interesting.
Just putting on some really nice boots there.
Yeah. I think this is a good game for Chelsea in a way. The injuries that they have, I think this is a good one that they will play, because they're coming up against a decent team, not a good team, a decent team. But also a team that's like very low on confidence. They can just come in and.
It's a home return for Lukaku. I would say that.
Well, actually, the game is in Stamford Bridge. Yeah, it's in Stamford Bridge, so it's not a home return yet. But yeah, his whole team is coming. Yeah. He's gonna score. Yeah, he's gonna score, isn't he? He's just gonna score a goal, isn't he?
I don't think so, because he's going through a very rough patch. In the last game, Werner did score, so
Yeah.
he seems like he can score if he gets the opportunity. But Lukaku is just a little off track right now. He started his season quite well, but right now it's just a little haywire.
Anyway, we'll see. We will see what happens. So, what's the score prediction, Adarsh? What do you think it's gonna be?
2-0 to Chelsea.
2-0 Chelsea. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's hard to predict. I think Chelsea defense looks really good. Their offense might be a bit shaky, but yeah, I think you got to go with the Chelsea. I mean, I think 3-0 to Chelsea. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, 3-0. I just feel like that's going to happen. But what's interesting though is all the news about Ralf van Rangnick. He might be. There are lots of reports that he's coming to United. We don't have official confirmation yet, but if you do watch this channel, we will do a show on that appointment once that's officially confirmed. So once we know for sure that that's happening, because we've been here before, we've burned before, so we're not gonna jinx it, as they say, but we'll do a show. So keep on track for that. So we're not gonna talk too much about that today. Let's talk about Manchester City, Adarsh. And here's something that's oh, you know what? Actually, on Chelsea is not one thing. Trevor Chalobah, there's a good player there. I think we had spoken about him before the Champions League game about whether he should be playing for England in the last review show, and then he went and he showed up at the Champions League, scored a goal. I think he might be a CDM contender as well to play there. So, I mean, that is something.
Yeah, but I don't think so, because Loftus-Cheek is there. Jorginho might play the defensive midfielder role, and Kovacic might start. So I don't think he's going to make it to a defensive role there.
Yeah, I just feel that of all the players that they have, he's probably the one who's the closest to Kante. So they want to replace Kante like for like, and I think he's the closest they have. So maybe he will. But anyway, we'll see. It doesn't really matter much, but we'll see what happens. Coming to Manchester City, I'll just say, I saw the PSG game, and what I could tell, I mean, well, obviously PSG have all kinds of troubles, and we don't go into that on this show.
All kind of troubles, yeah.
Yeah, they've all they're in all kinds of trouble right now. But I mean, it's just the control that they exude is something that is wonderful to see. I mean, we've always known Pep Guardiola teams are very good offensively, they're very good, in midfield, but it's just that control that they have over a team like PSG. It's something different, isn't it? Something that is unique.
I mean, from minute one, they were just controlling the ball, whether it's Rodri, whether it's Diaz, whether it's anyone who's just going up there, they're just controlling the game.
That's all right. We have a bit of a moment there. It's fine.
Kya hua? All right.
Yes.
Sorry for that. Coming back on to Manchester City, I mean, from minute one, they were just controlling the game, whether it's Rodri, whether it's Bernardo Silva, whether it's Sterling. Even Sterling had a very good game there. So it was a cruise control of Pep Guardiola, a proper masterclass, because apart from that goal of Mbappe, I don't think they provided any kind of threat to Manchester City from minute one. So Messi was just not able to perform at his level. Neymar just being a shadow of someone else. Mbappe, he was very good in defensive work as well. I would say that he was there in the penalty box as well, in the D box area, defending corners and everything, making runs, scoring goal as well. But again, the midfield is just a little worn out as of now. They're not able to connect from defense to attack. Messi is not getting much of a ball. Neymar is not getting good deliveries to outrun or even dribble out some and create chances. So it's a different story altogether. But being Manchester City there, I mean, they started Zinchenko as a false nine. So, what is going on with Pep Guardiola in Champions League? You never know. Imagine if this being a Champions League final and starting Zinchenko at number 9.
It's a weird one.
It would be a howler.
Yeah, I know that's a weird one, isn't it? And he almost lost the game because because they were trailing at the time when he made that change. So obviously something was wrong. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. Maybe I don't know. I mean, we don't talk much about PSG. I think for good reason. I feel Neymar is probably will go down as the biggest wasted talent of his generation, I think. At the end of his career. So, but anyway, that's a different story for another day. Speaking of Manchester, the other part about Manchester City obviously is the injuries. I mean, I don't know if Jack Grealish is back. I think he's still out injured.
He's still out. He's still
out injured. I think Phil Foden is probably a little bit of a doubt. Kevin De Bruyne is definitely not going to be starting.
Kevin De Bruyne is still COVID.
2 weeks. So he's going to be out. So I mean, it's opportunities for players. Riyad Mahrez still can't. I mean, I know he still can't get into the team. He still can't start games. Or did he start against PSG? I know he didn't start against.
I'll tell you one thing about Manchester City here. Okay, so every season there is 1 or 2 players who starts the season on a bench. But the next season, those players start the season as a whole. If you look at Gabriel Jesus, he benched the whole season last year, and now he's starting every game. Riyad started every game last year. Now he's benching. Bernardo started as a bench. Now he's starting every game. So it's a Pep Guardiola's rotation. It's a season rotation which he uses, so that you can call it a tactical thing, or you can just call it how he likes to keep his players happy or something like that. But whatever you call it, things work out for Pep. Things work out for Manchester City as an overall.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, isn't it? Most managers rotate within the season. He rotates from season to season. That's one of Pep's things. What does he have against substitutions? I mean, that's one question. He didn't make any substitutions at United. He made just one against PSG. What does he have against substitution?
I totally get it. He doesn't change how the team is playing. If a player is tired, he can rest it in another game, but he doesn't want to change the dynamics of a team. What if a new player who comes onto the pitch and makes a blunder because he's not aware of the tempo, what the game is going on at that moment? What kind of player is making certain runs? So, I mean, that is totally fine from my end personally, I would say, because
I mean, we're talking about City, Aldrich doesn't answer for everything. We hadn't broken out the stats yet. That's one thing we haven't got yet. But then we talk about West Ham. They lost to Wolves. They've actually had a pretty good season by their standards. But lost to Wolves. They drew against Genk. Is it slow? Is it just a small blip? Is it something where, now they were at a high level and now they're kind of regressing to the mean? Do you think that's happening? Do you think it's a concern for them?
I don't think so, because they won the last Europa League, right? Yarmolenko scored, Noble scored.
No, I think they drew with Genk, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2-0. So if you win at a European level, so it automatically works as a mind booster, right? It works as a motivator at your level. So if you're having one rough game that was, but if you're coming back with a win in hand from a European team, that would actually make them work a little more harder. But nevertheless, it's Premier League. It's nearly December now. Boxing Day is not far. They can slip. And if you notice the table, it's Arsenal just 3 points behind them. Although the goal difference is a little too much to say, but the points are just 3. So if Arsenal is really that consistent, what we are all supposing Arsenal would be now, they might catch up and contest for top 4 as well.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are top 4 contenders. At this point, I think Arsenal are top 4 contenders. I don't think that's any doubt in anyone's mind. West Ham, I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, that the key obviously is that Arsenal playing Newcastle. You expect them to win that one, and you expect West Ham to lose, so that gap will sort of extend there a little bit. So we'll have to see how that happens. Speaking of Arsenal, actually, you know what? Before that, what do you think is going to be the score? City against West Ham.
I'll favor for Arsenal. Sorry, West Ham versus what?
City. Manchester City versus West Ham.
Yeah. So I'll go with 2-1 to City, because I think David Moyes is quite good when it comes to providing deliveries to the striker, who is Antonio, who's in very good form right now. So I fear that a little bit. So 2-1 to City right now.
Yeah, it's that midfield. If West Ham can get that right, I think they can go to City like they did against Liverpool. But that is, I don't know, I just feel it's a bit too far for them. It's at home. They're playing away. I think it would be a 3-1.
I mean, I really would like to talk a little about Rodri, how well he is playing this season. I mean, last season, if you look at his game, he was having blunders after blunders, and we were just remembering Fernandinho. Even if he was 35, let's just play Fernandinho. He would be playing better than Rodri. But this season, he is just top notch. You can't press him. He is just distributing the ball fantastically. He is controlling the game, just what Pep Guardiola wanted from him from day one. Similar game to Sergio Busquets, I would say. Not at that level, not at that professional level, but quite close to it, a similar game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he's been one of the standouts this season, I think, along with Joao Cancelo, another player who has also done very well. So yeah, I think
you can't just skip Manchester City and not talk about Cancelo this season.
Well, I can, but it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. I can't do that. No, I know what you mean. No, it's been good. I think that's the hallmark of a good team, of a great team, right? Everybody seems to play their part. Everybody seems to have good seasons. Some things other clubs can only dream of. But anyway, because we don't have good players. But anyway, that's a good answer.
We're dreaming for the same thing, but unfortunately things aren't going in the same way.
Yeah, anyway, well, it's a bit, so there's always next year. That's what Liverpool said for 30 years. So we'll say that for 30 years. There's always next year. But anyway, it's 3. I think 2-1 from others. I think 3-1 to City. I feel like City will overwhelm West Ham eventually. I think it'll be tough, but they'll get it. They'll get the job done. So we'll move on to Arsenal because we talked about Arsenal. Well, let's start with Newcastle first because Newcastle. And we spoke about this at the review show as well. The problem for Newcastle is they're now a rich team, but they're still but they still have like a relegation squad. And the key question is what players they're going to get. But I mean, I was just asking this to Nishikant and Sagar, the others. Is there a danger for them that they'll be too adrift of the 17 teams above them or whatever 18 teams, how many other teams above them? Will they be in danger of being cut adrift? Even if they do buy good players in January, they may not be able to make that charge when they need to.
I don't think so because the relegation battle, for what I have seen in the past couple of seasons, just goes till the very end, to the very last game week as well sometimes. So they can still challenge for that. They've got a new manager. He's still yet to perform and plays a single game, I guess.
No, he played the last one. They drew it 3-3. Brentford.
They drew. Okay.
Yeah.
So they are scoring goals, right?
Yeah, so they haven't won yet. They're the only team that hasn't won a game yet. So yeah.
So I guess things would change for them because it's just they're just with 6 points, right? And Leeds are 17th with 11 points. So it's a difference of 5 points. That's just 2 games if you calculate it. So I don't think it's much big of a difference because 2 games is something which Eddie, I believe, can change and bring the good part to the team. And new signings, of course, brings a new hope, a new enlightenment for a manager and the set of fans there as well. And I think Newcastle fans and the owners and the board all would be just hoping for just surviving the Premier League this season. Next season, they'd be just having a different aspect altogether.
Yeah, that's the point. I think they need to survive, but the only question is, they've got I think 7 or 8 games. I think we've got a lot of games now between now and the end of the season, maybe 6 or 7. The question is what happens at the end of it. Is there a chance that Leeds or whoever, Aston Villa, all of them is kind of pull away a little bit from them and then they might get sucked in because it's difficult to get out of it. But anyway, we will see what happens. Speaking of Arsenal, they were hammered by Liverpool. Happens to everyone. Teams get hammered against Liverpool. But they've had a week now to sort of, again, that's the advantage for Arsenal, right? They get a week off between every game. They don't have to worry about midweek games as much. What did Arteta tell his players going into this one? Obviously there was a bit of a high when they had the good one, then they sort of came back down. Now it's obviously the key, the test now is to kind of regroup back again and get back on the groove, so to speak.
The Arsenal and Liverpool game was the obvious result which we all were expecting. We knew what Klopp is going to do to Arsenal because Salah, Mane, Firmino, everyone is in form. They're not making any kind of errors in the game. They're not conceding goals just for fun. Maybe they will be conceding here and there, but not for fun.
Well, they did concede 3 against West Ham, but okay.
Yeah. So that's a different game, right? It was just one game. So I think that's fine. One game goes here and there for any team. But for Arteta, I would say, let's just forget about what they have been with Liverpool. It was an odd game. It was a better team, of course. But let's see what they have been doing so far. They have been constantly performing really well into the game. And it's just what they need to focus on is Newcastle next. And they have the capability to beat Newcastle. They have the capability to rule the game, to control the game. They got Partey, they got Aubameyang, who's in form, Odegaard, who needs to come back to form, here and there players. But I think they'll do just fine against Newcastle.
Yeah, I think, it is at home, so they should have that advantage. It's going to be interesting to watch. And they've got Man United after this one away, so they'll want to pick up the 3 points here, before that game. Though I think Arteta always picks up 3 points against United, so I don't see that as much of a problem for him right now. But anyways, that's going to be a one to watch as well. Would Arsenal fans be worried if they draw, they lose against Newcastle? Would there be any cause for concern, or would it just be just a blip?
That's just a little off the road, I would say. It will put Arsenal fans off the road because they wanted to see a little progress, right, with Arteta, with so many games in charge. And they were just about to see the progress. And if you lose 2 consecutive Premier League games, it would just make them think the team, the squad, the club is back to square one when they appointed Arteta at first place. So it would just make a little sad to the fans, I would say. But I don't think it will be a tough game. It would be an easy game for Arsenal instead against Newcastle, because Newcastle are quite low in their confidence as of now, and Arsenal has got something to prove to the fans now. So
famous last words right there from others. You know, and there's somebody else who said things would be a walk in the park, and then we saw what happened. So famous last words from others for Arsenal. What do you think is going to be the score?
3-0 to Arsenal easily.
I just have this feeling that this might be a banana skin for some reason. So I'm gonna go with the 1-0 to Arsenal, because I just feel like this will be one of those games that will be tough for them. You know, I don't know why I have this feeling. Sometimes you have this feeling about certain games, and it just so happens, right? But anyway, speaking of you know, easy and tough and all that, we're going to talk about Liverpool. And I mean, they're taking Southampton, so I mean, it's a much easier game than what it was last season. I mean, the only question with Liverpool, I guess, is you know, we talked about Van Dijk last time. We talked about is he sort of like in that decline phase, and they kept a clean sheet. They played very well, so you know that more fool us. But I mean, the question would be that at midfield and defense configuration, because Thiago scored a goal now, do you think that there is a space for him in that midfield three right now? Because they're missing so many players, do you think there's a space for him in that midfield for Thiago?
Because the main starter, like Henderson, Fabinho, and the third one is always a rotational player, you see. So Thiago might just start because he scored a goal, he scored a winner as well. So that could be an edge for him to start the games. He hasn't been performing what he was performing in Bundesliga. Of course, it's a different league. Coming at his age, it's not easy to adjust in a like league like Premier League. But it's fine. He isn't performing that bad. He isn't performing that good. He's just performing average, and we were expecting him to perform really good. So that is just our expectations which are being broken, but he's performing decently for Klopp, for the whole team. And he might just start for Liverpool, and I think they're gonna win it easily, of course, again, because last season, if you see, or seasons before, it was Van Dijk who was holding the whole defense on his shoulders. Whoever is in front of him, he just orders like, okay, I'll handle this guy, don't worry, I'll just keep the defense straight. But this season, as you rightly said in the last show, that he hasn't been to his very best, but we have to take into consideration that
you're muted. Sorry.
So we have to keep that in mind, that other players are doing a much better job as well. Okay, Matip, be it Matip or Konate or any other defender, they're doing a much better job. Alexander-Arnold, he is performing really well, not only in his attacking game, but this season, surprisingly, he's been doing a really good job in defensive areas as well. So, I mean, it's the overall defense which is performing now, not just Van Dijk. So that is the reason we are not highlighting Van Dijk as of now.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's also good. I mean, but they do have a good defense. I mean, Alisson is there as well, who for me, I think probably is the best goalkeeper in the league. Sorry, Ederson. Ederson.
You mean Mendy, right?
Yeah. Well, between the two, I don't know.
Mendy.
Yeah. Well, Mendy is there as well. Yeah. So I still feel Mendy is a good shot stopper. I do well. Actually, you know what? I do like Mendy as well. So I mean, he's there as well in that conversation, isn't he? Is it a surprise that the top three goalkeepers play for the top three clubs? I mean, there's a coincidence there. The top three clubs have the top three goalkeepers. I don't mean that as a dig to the club. I mean that as, you know, goalkeepers are important.
Of course. I mean, if a club wants to be at the top level, goalkeeper is the first guy you need to buy. Because if you see Pep Guardiola, when he joined Manchester City, he just wanted Bravo, no matter what. There was Hart. He was a City legend, of course. But no, he wanted Bravo, and he brought Bravo. Although it didn't turn out like a fairy tale what he was expecting. But he soon realized that Bravo is not the guy. So let's get Ederson. And Ederson is the guy. Chelsea was always focusing on their goalkeeper. They've got Kepa. Kepa was not the guy. They got Mendy. And same for Liverpool. Like Mignolet was the guy, but soon they realized he is not the one whom they can rely on. So they got a different guy, Karius, but he wasn't performing good either. So they brought Alisson, and now they're performing good. But that can't be said for United, because De Gea just started performing well this season. So
I mean, yeah,
they just hold on to Henderson for the same reason, because De Gea wasn't performing so well in the last couple of seasons, and few fans, or even all of us being a neutral there, were expecting Ole or any other manager to start Henderson a game or two to see what does he perform. But guess what? De Gea is still there, and he is performing much better now.
Yeah, well, Anderson was injured at the start of the season, so that's why De Gea started, and he played well, and then you can't drop a goalkeeper once they play well. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, that's the sad part. And even Arsenal have Aaron Ramsdale, who's doing really well. So
he's doing really well.
Yeah, so you have all these good goalkeepers. It's good we give a little bit of recognition to goalkeepers, because Ballon d'Or nominees don't. Anyway, well, yeah. So what's your prediction for the Liverpool Southampton game? What do you think?
Like 3-0 to Liverpool easily, with Salah on the score sheet once again.
Yeah, I think Salah will get a hat trick. I think it'll be 5-0 to Liverpool. That's what I think. I just feel like Southampton play a style where they can win or they can get thrashed. I think that's just the way that they play, and they're kind of like a sort of a more defensive version of Leeds. Leeds are like pretty much gung ho, and then you've got Southampton a little bit.
Leeds are just done this season. I mean, look at their state; they're just above relegation zone now.
Yeah,
and Bielsa is I don't think he's able to cope up with Premier League as of now, because they haven't lost any players since last season. No, but they haven't sold any big name.
I don't think so. Yeah, because they also bought Dan James,
who's saving Bielsa's job day in, day out, but no other players performing well. Bamford was performing so well last season. He was even called out for an international game.
Yeah, he's injured. Again, they have a lot of injuries though. Bamford out injured. Anyway, well, I mean, that's something with Leeds. It's the second season syndrome as well. It does feel Leeds' style leads to that, doesn't it? And once you kind of adapt to it, and once you kind of understand the way that they play, it's easier to counter it. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could do it, then any manager can do it. Countering Leeds' style is not that difficult. It's a little bit of a dig there, but
that's a different rant from a United fan, I would say.
Well, actually, you know what? No, but there's an element of truth to that. But anyway, that's a core conversation for another. I wish we touched on this a little bit before. Do you think the game against Brentford is critical for Rafa Benitez? Do you think if he loses, there's a chance that the Everton board might be thinking, you know what, maybe we need a change?
I mean, Rafa is a very good manager, and there were links when Newcastle had a new owners, like linking Rafa back to Newcastle. But he declined it politely, that he is quite focused with Everton, no matter what, he's going to stay. So I think his intentions are very much clear to stay. It's the board who would decide. And Brentford is a 50-50 team this season, because they started the season really, really well. And although after a while they got a little rough patch, but they can still like jump on and have a 2-2 games against a team like Everton. But I would say I would just go in favor of Rafa here. He would definitely win this game, because his reputation, his managerial career, everything is on stake, because no other team. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. It's just my screen is. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's better, but you are pausing again and again your video and your audio.
Because my screen is completely frozen. All right, there we go. It should be fine now.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, I know. It's just sometimes yes, the computer really is
gives up on you.
Yes, it's not my internet, it's my computer. Anyway, sorry about that. We've had a lot of technical issues today, but that's okay. All right, we're kind of coming to a close anyway. So we'll talk finally about Spurs, because we always leave them for the end, because nobody cares much about them at this stage. Antonio Conte lost in midweek against Mura. That's a natural club there, and they lost in Slovenia. It's a scale of the job. Is it the scale of the job for Conte? Is it the fact that, again, like Conte is a bit of a defensive manager? This entire Spurs team was built as an attacking unit. Is it just a matter of like switching tactics for him?
I mean, if you look at Conte's managerial career, it's the first time he lost a game this early. The last was a loss in 8 games with Chelsea, and it's the first time he lost in just 4 games. So he's having a different experience. You can see it in his eyes, on his face expressions, He's not happy about how the games are going. But yeah, Spurs are a different team. They are a team who plays with back four, who have been playing with back four for a while, and like playing with two wing backs who aren't so good in attacking and not so good in defensive either, which brings all sorts of trouble, because if you play with three in the back and two wing backs, you need wing backs who can do both. Like Lucas Digne is one of the guys who can play wing back and a proper left back when you talk about mediocre clubs. So similarly, they they need a good amount of energetic fullbacks who can just go up and down and perform really well. Because Reguilon and Emerson, I don't think they are of that quality who should be hanging out with Spurs, because they aren't just what Spurs need at the moment. I don't think Conte will keep them if he gets the right amount of money to spend in the transfer market, of course, because attack is really good. If you see, Lucas Moura is not bad. He's good. He just have rough patches between here and there. Kane, I think he's getting better. He started really bad, but I think he's getting a little better now. And Bergwijn, again, an inconsistent player, but a right coach can help him to go a little steady, and Conte is that right coach. So they've got a really nice coach in Conte. They just need a good sportsmanship from the players.
You forgot about Son. You can't forget about Son.
Yeah.
He's probably the best attacker this season.
For Spurs,
he's
right?
probably for Spurs. Yeah, he's probably the best attacker this season for Spurs. Yeah. Oh yeah, for Spurs. Yeah.
So that thing is the other one, but what I would be focusing on is players need to just do good job for Conte. They need to show what they are capable of, because they'll just survive this season. Okay, they'll just perform average this season. Nobody's expecting them to go for top four or challenge for top four. But the next season, Levy is going to give funding to Conte, and that is the interesting part, and how he spends, where he spends. Because if players don't perform this season, he's going to replace you. So that's a thing which player need to keep in mind and perform for the manager.
Yeah. Has there been a more underwhelming signing than Tanguy and Ndombele in the league? I mean, I can't remember someone who's been that, because I mean, he's had now 3 managers, I think. Yeah, this is third manager at Spurs.
Yeah, third manager.
Fourth if you count Ryan Mason, and that's 4. It's just there's just something about him, isn't there? That you feel like he's got it, but then he doesn't.
He is a walking hospital at first place, man. He is half the time injured. If you look at his stats, I mean, I don't think he'll be having like 50 games in like 3 seasons or like 2 seasons he's with Spurs. He hasn't played 50 games. But if you see his quality, it was the first game against Manchester City which they lost, right, with Spurs. Dembele had a masterclass game. He was controlling the mid. He is excellent on the ball. He was controlling the midfield. Everything was good. It's just his consistency which costs him his reputation. Yeah. I think Conte would help him to be a little more consistent. But it's just a do or die season for him, I would say, under Conte.
Yeah.
Because if you are good enough, if you're good enough, you're fit enough, he'll start you. If you're not performing well, he'll bench you. And most probably by the end of your last year of contract, you'll be sold as well. You never know. So yeah, he's a little on-off player.
Yeah, it's a bit weird one, because he looks like a good player whenever you see him play, but he never plays 90 minutes whenever he does play, and he doesn't play often as well. Anyway, they're playing Burnley, who are in all sorts of trouble as well. I mean, they've kind of turned a little bit of a corner there. They got a draw against Chelsea. They look a little bit back to their old selves, but I mean, we'll see what happens. What do you think is going to be the final score?
I'd go with like 1-0 to Tottenham, because they're still like figuring out how things are working with the new manager.
I feel it's probably similar. Probably going to be 2-1, 1-0, 2-1, one of those. Yeah, 1 goal wins. It's not going to be, could be 1-0, because I mean, Burnley do have problems scoring goals. And I feel like Spurs are one of those teams that are seemingly doing enough. They're one of the, right now, they're like just doing enough to win games or get results. So yeah, it might be 1-0, 2-1, one of those goal lines. You can't really pick one or the other, but yeah, it's going to be a Spurs win. I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's well, not so sure. Well, I mean,
after yesterday, that could be a question. I get it, but
Yes,
But
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, no, no, totally fine. Yeah, I get is that for sure, but we don't know. But anyway, some of the exciting games as well. Leicester City playing Watford. Leicester in a little bit of trouble down there. Watford got a nice win over the weekend. So I mean, that would be one to watch out for as well. But then Leicester are kind of almost there in the Europa League as well. They did put a good performance. So that one will be one to keep an eye on as well. And then of course there are lots of other games as well. We've got Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa. I think that's what we have to call them now. Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa
Steven
back in
Gerrard,
action.
perfect.
What's your I have two more questions. So I didn't want to ask this. So I'll ask you, what are your expectations from Steven Gerrard this season and beyond in the Premier League?
I mean, this season, I don't have much expectation. Just surviving in the Premier League would be the first one. It would be interesting of how he performs in the next season, because board would be opening up a bank in front of him, because they still got some money left out of Jack Grealish's departure, and they have got good players as well. Like Ings is a good player. Bailey is a good player. Mings is performing really well now. Cash is Aston Villa's right back, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's performing well as well. He got his international call as well. So they got good players. They got decent players as well. All they need is just a good coach who can just keep the momentum going. If not all wins, if not all draws, just 2 win, 1 draw is fine with them. So it's just a momentum thing what they need as of now, because we know what Aston Villa is capable of. The whole squad is not changed. It's just one guy who departed and 2 or 3 players who just they brought in to replace him. So I think Steven Gerrard would do a fine job at Aston Villa. And we all are reading speculations, right? What Liverpool fans are expecting after 2024 when Klopp leaves Liverpool. They're seeing him as his successor. So if Gerrard performs well with Aston Villa for a season 2 or till 2024, then maybe we'll see him returning to Liverpool.
Yeah, it'll be well, I mean, having been burned through one club legend recently, I don't know how good an idea that is, but you never know. And he has won a league title, to be fair, with Rangers.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some pedigree there, but we will see how this goes.
But Liverpool would be expecting to win a title under him, if not as a player, at least as a manager.
Yeah. Is Steven Gerrard the only Liverpool legend to have never won a Premier League title? I just feel that, well, maybe Jamie Carragher as well. I think you got 2 there. It's very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, got those 2.
I can recall Steven Gerrard, in the same category.
Obviously Steven Gerrard is a much higher caliber than Jamie Carragher, but yeah, it just feels like someone who's very revered for someone who never won a Premier League title. Anyway, that is my dig for the show. This final question: I don't know if you do FPL, but for those who are watching who do fantasy Premier League, who's one player that you'd pick, or you would let them to definitely pick?
Salah, man, he is in terrific form, and plus he's like Liverpool is facing a smaller club in front of them. So I would go with Salah hands down.
Yeah, I think Salah would be your pick. But you know what? Everybody picks Salah. So you don't really get points if you pick Salah as well. Like you get points, but you don't necessarily get the lead that you want. I would say pick Joao Cancelo, because he's a defender and he gets assists and sometimes even goals. You pick him, you get a lot of points. So that would be my pick, Joao Cancelo. I picked, my last pick was a disaster. So make that what you will, because I picked Declan Rice and then they lost. I think Joao Cancelo is a very safe bet. So pick him, and see if that works out for you. But on that note, thank you so much, Adarsh. It was a pleasure, as always, to have you on the show. All the best for this weekend's games. For the one against West Ham, it's a nice one, and hopefully they'll win. Hopefully all 3 teams can win, so we can. When I say all 3 top teams can win, so we can continue this nice little 3-way title dance that we have going on. But obviously others probably feels differently to that, but it will be to watch.
I'll be a little biased on that. Okay.
Yes, of course you are. Well, I mean, at this point for me, the title, the season is over. So like in my case, so it's not just about enjoying. It's just about enjoying what comes. In terms of results, I mean, it really doesn't matter at this point. But I mean, like in terms of enjoying the football that we play, the football that everybody else plays, it's really all about that. But on that note, thank you so much, Adarsh, for joining. As always, a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rohit. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, absolutely. Apologies to everyone for some of the technical difficulties that happened in the middle. My computer kind of started a bit. But if you did enjoy the video and enjoy some of the discussion we had, please remember to share, like, and subscribe to the channel. And obviously, tell us in the comment section what do you think about the games this weekend. What do you think? What are you excited for? I know we've kind of skimmed over United a little bit because others kind of doesn't miss his stick, so we kind of left it away from him. But also because we are going to do a show coming up soon, so we'll talk about it there. And of course, also let us know if other sticks are too much. You can tell us in the comments for that one as well.
Yeah,
In the meantime,
sure.
well, in the meantime, take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.